what are some, and again, I know it's really hard to like generalize, because again, every person is unique, but there's some commonalities amongst those. What are some like favorite exercises or lifts that you might include for a jiu-jitsu practitioner, someone that's working out, doing jiu-jitsu a lot, to help fight against some of the rounded back posture, tight hips, and everything else that they develop?
Yeah, so again, we want to balance out the body. So we would work a lot of posterior chain work, any type of horizontal pulling, rowing. Deadlifts are also good. RDLs are mostly important too as well. I do like the hip bridge for a specific reason of just building up the hamstrings, the glutes. I'm not big into doing that as what we call an indicator lift, which is basically a max effort compound lift. I don't like to load the hips that much. I don't think it's necessary. But what I will say is I can use it for a hypertrophy builder, right? A builder of strength endurance in those cases. Also, kettlebell swings are very important for me. When it comes down to having the ability to relax and contract, rapidly and do that for time, that's very important too. I take a lot from Pavel Tsatsouline on that perspective of just having the ability to have anti-glycolytic conditioning, where you're actually having the ability to produce power for a long duration. That's very important. But it also works the posterior chain. So you're looking from the back all the way down to the hamstrings. We want to build that up because and especially if they are primarily playing from guard, they are pulled forward. They're anterior dominant. A lot of the times they have tight psoas, they have tight hip flexors. So we need to make sure we're working the antagonistic muscles there to improve on opening up that range of motion and getting those muscles activated back there, so you don't have those problems in the low back, don't have groin injuries and things like that. So a lot of those are important. Hamstring curls, GHRs. We do a lot of sled dragging, primarily walking forward with a hamstring pull upright. I take a lot of my stuff. One of my mentors, Louis Simmons, takes a lot of stuff from Westside Barbell, obviously. So we do a lot of sled drags. We do a lot of reverse hypers if we have the access to the equipment there. Glute ham raise, like I said. And then from a core perspective, like a trunk strengthening perspective, I do a lot of anti-rotation and a lot of anti-flexion work too as well. We can strengthen up those muscles there that allow for rotation to occur. Also, it allows you to stay stable inside of someone's guard too as well. So if you're looking not to get swept, you want to maintain stability in the transverse plane. So we'll work on things like payloft presses. Right. And, I do a thing called a kettlebell pull-through, where we're working on the muscles of serratus anterior, working on the obliques, we're working on all that there in an anti-rotation state. And then again, your average planks and side planks too are very important for us as well.
Awesome.
The kettlebell pull through is your quadruped, or on hands and toes and pulling through. And trying to limit your rotation. Push-up position. Right.
Yeah, almost like an arm drag, right? You're pulling through the kettlebell, arm drag.
Those are great, man. They're good for so many reasons. I mean, you're activating that. You're talking about those shoulder blade muscles. You're activating that, and you're also doing anti-rotation. You're stabilizing on the opposite arm as well. I mean, it's just a great overall exercise for just – it checks a lot of boxes, It's
I mean, other things like the Turkish get-up I think is important, you know what I mean? That's obviously some of it's shoulder stability. To a degree, I mean, a lot of my guys lack the coordination just yet, but a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, they understand it because they move like that in a way, right? They have to get up off the ground. It's like you're basically getting out of a position at that point, right? So from that, it's like a technical stand-up, right? It's with the kettlebell overhead. So now you're working shoulder stability, and then you're working all of those muscles to have to stabilize the body and then move through space. So you're working on proprioception, kinesthetic awareness, and then control and stability throughout the entire body, which is very important. So it's an all-in-one. And then band pull-aparts are also key. I also like to do a lot of, I like to do retraction exercises, wall slides, prone swimmers, YWTs, all of that back there to pull that upper back into place, right? Because a lot of times, the reason why a lot of these guys have lower back issues is because they're kyphotic, because they're rolled forward. So for that fixes a lot of that lower back issue and a lot of that tightness in the QL, because we actually get to pull that body in a better, postural position.
Yep. Yeah, no, I had a similar issue a few years ago, man, like maybe about almost 6, 7. This is where I started kind of going down this path of figuring out what was wrong with me. I had a lower back issue. I mean, I'd go for like a walk for like an hour, and all of a sudden, like my back would seize up. I was like most people, it's my lower back, I need to stretch it or something, right? So people think. And it was because weak hamstrings and glutes, and then the back was always rounding, so I had to strengthen the back so I could actually stand up straight. Now I don't. And then you get that hip extension, loosen up the psoas, loosen up those hip flexors, and then everything it feels better now. Because again you're strengthening the cause of it. And speaking of which, man, just kind of to segue into it, it's a perfect time, I think, because you've got a program out, and I actually bought it when it was coming out because it had a bunch of promotional stuff. It's a good program.
Did you really?
Yeah, I bought it. I was because I'm curious, man. I'm like, because just like you, I'm like, some guys talking about it. I saw your channel. Oh, it's some good stuff. Let's check it out. And it's a good program. You guys have included some of that articular rotation stuff because I started playing around with it, and then Eugene was like, oh, I'm going to that thing. He was talking about going to the program. But what's the name of it again? I forgot, and you can kind of talk more about it.
Yeah. So the BJJ program is called Ground Control.
Yeah.
And I named it because it's like one of my favorite gis. Yeah, you remember the ground control gis?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had one. My buddy, I forgot his name, Justin, I think it was. I was down in Vero because my old coach was down in Vero Beach, and I was down there training with him. And then Hanato Tavares was actually he was actually who I got my black belt from back in the day. And
really?
Yeah, way back in the day. So I was down there training with him for the Miami Open back in like 2011, and Justin gave. I think it's Justin. Was it Justin? That owned it, I think. I can't remember his name. But he gave me he gave me one of the gis to rock, which I liked. And then I'm a dumbass. I'm a black belt at this point, and I was going down there to compete. I forget my black belt, so he gave me a ground control black belt. So it was cool, but it was a good gi. And I actually really liked the belt. The belt was like kind of like it's like a really thick gi material belt instead of the traditional belt. But yeah, it's a good gi.
Nice, yeah, man. I love that gi, man. I love the competing in it. It's super light, you know. I still have them, matter of fact. You can't really find them anymore, but so I decided to call it Ground Control. It was like the best, catchiest name I could come up with.
Yeah, it's a perfect name for it. Yeah. And then what's the website? So if someone's interested in checking this stuff out, because again, if you guys have listened to him, a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, it's in that. So if you're digging it, go check it out. What's the website for it?
Yeah, so my website is darustrong.com. Very simple.
Cool.
And then so you've got you had some other stuff in there, right? You have some other programs as well. You have like a boxing program or MMA program.
I have a boxing program called Heavy Hitter. Okay. That's an 8-week program. I have Fight Ready, which is a 12-week MMA program, and I also have Fight Strong 365, which is a year-long program that I partnered up with Fight Camp Conditioning on, and those are all available on my website too as well.
If you are a fighter or someone who wants to start training in MMA, listen up. My name is Phil Daru. I am the head performance coach of American Top Team. I train some of the elite MMA athletes in the world, such as Dustin Poirier, King Mo Lawal, Frankie Edgar, Junior Dos Santos, Edson Barboza, and Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Going to MMA gyms or hiring a personal trainer can get extremely expensive over time. So if you want to get in shape and train using the exact program of the top MMA fighters for an affordable one-time price, check out Fight Ready in the description below.